Okay, you're on.
Good morning. Happy New Year. This is January 4th, Monday, 2021. Selectmen's meeting, 9 a.m. Could we stand and honor America with the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is any public input.
None.
Okay, we'll move on to review and approval of the minutes for 12/28/20. I have no changes.
From 9 a.m. minutes.
Yeah. I will move approval.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. And moving right along. Happy New Year, Jim. Come on down. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Morning, Jim.
Morning.
It's that time of year. I see the white stuff.
Yeah, it's that time of year. So in December, we started out by grabbing some low road edges on the roadsides, Sodom Road, Dam Road, and Ledge Hill. They were starting to become a little bit dangerous when I saw a tractor trailer truck get off the edge and swing back on. Got a little scared for a second. We excavated out some of the ditch lines on Ledge Hill where we've had problems in the past winters, so we got that taken care of. And we plowed and treated roads with a 1 foot of heavy snowstorm that we had, which bent down a lot of trees and branches into the roads and stuff. And then we had to clean them up for the next several days after that. We ditched along Federal Corners Road where we had troubles last winter. And we ditched along a road in a section of Canaan where we had some road washing problems going on. And we plowed and treated a 3 foot snowstorm. Then we had to clean up from that, all the large snow banks and push back in the parking lots. Then we had to prepare for a heavy rainstorm that came in on Christmas. You guys all remember that, I'm sure. So we opened up the drainage areas and pushed back, cut openings for water to relieve. And after the rainstorm, we ditched the sides of the roads where we had problem areas with the water. Areas that we had problems with. We topped off the sand shed so it was full again. And we spot treated a couple times, and we plowed on Saturday morning, and then we were out again this morning. And that's the update for December. I did get the quote finally from Ed Butler, Butler Heating Service for that. And he did come in the lowest at $18,000. They all seem to be proposing, all three proposals that we have, pretty much proposing the same three type of systems. The one thing that Ed Butler's mentioned was he's going to change the fuel line out because he didn't think that the fuel line was adequate that runs through the three now, because these systems will be slightly larger. And I noticed in one of the quotes from somebody else, they were going to reuse them. And he was kind of a little unsure why we would reuse something.
So you had 3 quotes, is that what you
Yes.
said?
Yep.
Okay. And
Yes.
you're gonna provide that, I mean, we have to put that together in a warrant article, I guess, or something.
We do, if that's something we put on the warrant this year. So are these overhead heaters?
So they're going to basically replace some overhead heaters just because of the floor space and, to get the air where we need it, I guess, is, they need 3 of them.
Yeah, so is that gonna take out the existing infrared units, or is this additional?
They're gonna remove those, that's in the figures, so they would remove those and replace with new ones.
So he's at 18,000, what are the other two at?
We have one at 19,780, and then we have one at 35,585.
Wow.
And they're all pretty similar to what we're talking about as far as material.
Must be very special heaters at 35,000.
So they all, the labor, I guess.
Yeah.
I have two questions. The first one is, has the fire department infrared camera been used to make sure that there's not issues with the structure, leaks?
No, I have not done that, but I did go upstairs and look around, and so did Ed Butler as well. And he does suggest that we would make sense to add insulation to the top. There's insulation in there, but what we're finding is thin insulation, just screwed all in different directions everywhere.
So it's foam,
It's fiberglass.
this thick.
Yeah, it's thin fiberglass.
Oh,
Yeah, I know, it's a little unusual. There's quite a bit of it up there, but, you know, Ed said I'd be amazed if he even had like a 10 R rating.
And is this space just unused attic space, is that what it is?
Correct, it's unused, and basically, you can see the metal roof above that. You know, it's on the
So
level.
the insulation's on the deck,
Yes,
okay.
and then above it, you can kind of see out.
So you could get blown in,
That's
whatever.
what I was kind of thinking too, would probably be the easiest, because I'll be honest with you, getting in there was not very easy. I think if I ate any more for lunch, I wouldn't have fit. It
Yeah.
was like a very narrow opening that you gotta get up through.
The question I have is, the building's 40 years old, number one, and it makes sense to make sure the infrastructure is, around the doors, around the windows, in the walls. What I'm concerned with, Jim, and you and I have talked about this, remember we went and put money a couple years for doors,
Yes,
and then what happened? All of a sudden, there were additional costs.
Oh, because of electricity,
because
correct.
The electric code says that we have to go back to make it safe all the way to the meter. The other issue I have is, and I brought this up at the CIP meeting and at the budget meeting, is we have another building that needs a furnace. And doesn't it make sense to have someone like Mr. Butler do both that and the Melvin station at the same time and save a few dollars?
It may.
you could ask him. I know he,
Did that go out to bid for the Melvin station?
No, the CIP this year, for whatever reason, postponed all of these heating systems for a year.
he did seem quite busy, and, you know, was wondering when he even had time.
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess when we elect the CIP, we'll maybe listen to it a little harder, but I think maybe talking to Quality or one of the insulation companies, have them come over and figure out what it would cost to
yeah.
get R20 or something up there on the ceiling.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, just doing a garage myself, I was told it's R38, so, which would be easily achieved if you can spray foam in there and give it a good blanket.
But if the current installation has to be taken out, there's a protocol with people who handle asbestos. And that building is 40 years old.
I'd want to make sure that that's the case, because even 40 years ago, there wasn't a lot of asbestos in insulation. I mean, there wasn't pipes, obviously.
Right, yeah. Asbestos primarily was used in
Duct work.
pipe insulation,
Yeah, duct work.
particularly in residential and light commercial stuff. That's
Well,
where you
my experience has been listening to when the fire department burns a building, and the person who used to work for the state was a member of the fire department. It's amazing where insulation,
Right.
asbestos is
Maybe,
found.
I'm not,
And I'm being cautious.
yeah. But they would know as well.
I'm hoping that they don't have to remove the insulation, because that seems like an additional cost that, should.
Generally, they're able to just add to what's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you gotta pull the old stuff out and start over. It's,
Yeah, and it's not a residential situation, so, yeah, just piling more insulation on top of it, I think would be fine. But they would know better than me.
Yeah.
Um, The next thing is for the warrant article on the paving. Write that down. So I'm still waiting for an estimate back for the gravel road edges.
Mhm.
I did talk to Frank, and he contacted me, he texted me back last Tuesday that he would work on it with, the new guy that's running it. We met, I forgot his name.
Is that Allstate?
Yeah. But anyhow, I kind of did the math, to be honest with you, is what they charged us this past year for doing gravel, just doing it quickly with the distance and what we had to pay. And it came out to, we might be looking at $44,000 to do this. I'm hoping it's less, but
for the gravel.
yeah, for gravel and compacting the road edges, which would put us over our budget a little bit, for sure. I don't think it should cost that much. I did the math myself, what I think it would cost for me to do it, because I recently bought a gravel spreading machine, and it's somewhere around the neighborhood, I'm guessing, of $27,000 to do that distance. So if they come back at 44, we can discuss it then. They do a nice job and everything. It's a lot of extra money.
Yeah. Well, the key, as I remember, is that they get good compaction on it once they get it down. So,
Yeah, and I can certainly rent the same, roller compactor. It's a 5-motor roller. They rent it right over in Macony. I've used it before. So, it's something that can be done.
Well, can't think on it too long.
Right.
When's Carol gonna get back to you?
I thought I would have had it by now, to be honest with you.
Okay. Because we're gonna be running out of time here.
yeah.
We need to put these things to get to bed.
I can try to reach out to him again today. And,
Yeah.
I'm guessing it would have something to do with the holidays.
Can I ask a question about paving?
Sure.
Each of the last 3 years, Carol has been paving our roads into November. Is there a target date that all of the paving will be done?
If we are ready, it'll be done in June like it always has been.
Well, no, it hasn't always been done in June.
Well, only because we weren't ready.
Well, how do we get ready?
Well, last year, if you remember, the roads that we had already prepped kind of got sidetracked when we changed the paving schedule in different areas. That's where we weren't prepared for that.
We found that section of Dame Road that needed to be worked on, and that was the holdup, right? Because
Correct.
we had to do prep in there, and there was a lot of prep that was required.
If we had stuck to the original plan, everything would have gone off without a hitch in June,
Yep.
the end of June. That was the original plan, and it would have worked. But we switched locations and
Yep.
found that we had a lot of,
So what was your concern?
Right.
Well,
I mean,
my concern is that the projects aren't being done in a timely fashion. Do you pave your driveway the last week of November? I don't think so.
Would I? Probably not, but I.
And you and your family generally-
Wanting to pave my
so
driveway.
maybe you can refresh my memory. When was it paved when did the paving start this year and when did it finish?
I don't have that information.
Okay, well, I have a pretty good idea. 90% of it was done in June as planned. We just weren't ready for the other part. And they came back in September, beginning of September, and finished when we were ready. And then the year before, you were saying it wasn't completed until when? You said 3 years in a row. I'm not familiar with that.
Well, the information I was reviewing a week ago, I can remember that we had paving, for example, done at the library. People fell, cut themselves, and it was done the last week of November.
That was the library project.
Yeah, that had nothing to do
No,
with it.
not the library project, it was before, it was the old library. I don't have that information quite, so I can't speak intelligently.
Okay, I don't think that anything to FR Carroll,
Okay.
they didn't even pay that.
This is where I'm coming from, and you and I have talked about this, is the paving needs to be done so we can use the roads.
No, and we've always tried to do that, always since day one.
Okay. I don't have that information, so I can't speak intelligently on it, and I apologize.
I did get from you, if you're done with that, a list on the guardrails.
Yes.
Are we gonna have time this year to do any of this, or should we include this in the paving? Road construction, or should we separate it? How do you wanna do this?
I almost feel like it should be separated, but I'm gonna go with what you come up with as a group,
Okay. And,
because it is a big number.
It is.
yeah, it is, but it's also a long number. I mean, you've got 1,400 linear feet of it. So, I mean, we could break it in two. We could do part of it this year and part of it next year.
So this is one guy. Now, how many, is this kind of like the big guardrail guy in the state, or just somebody that,
Oh,
Yeah, he's the one that came highly recommended from other towns.
yeah? And the other thing that I wondered, and we talked about, I think, at our last meeting, is this is for W rail, the same stuff we had in there. And there are other systems that provide protection along there. For instance, the cable, like the state used to use, and from what I understand, cable in areas where you don't have high-speed traffic is it's a very good alternative. It's less expensive, and it presents less of an impediment to moving the snow off the roads. So I think that's something that we ought to at least understand better before we jump in and put new W rail in.
We certainly could talk to him and ask him,
So
what the.
my guess is they'd
percentage
probably do that as well. If this guy's the, sort of like the premier guy, he probably does all the different kinds of,
yeah, maybe we could get a linear cost on that stuff, and then you can decide where you wanna go with it.
Yeah.
well, as I look at that quote, part of the deal that he puts in there is one of his conditions, like near the beginning of the list, I think, is this is his quote for doing all of this work. If we do part of it, then it's going to change it. And I have no idea how significantly. I mean, part of what goes into all this is mobilization, getting his equipment and all that
Right.
to the community. Once he's here, if he's got some extra projects to do, then the additional money for,
So maybe we ask him what the cost would be if we divide it up into 2 times and see what the difference is.
well, it would help to, as I think about the guardrails, particularly as it relates to the project that we're looking at doing this year, the corner of Dane and Ledge Hill Road, where somebody took out that section and really bent it up big.
Yeah, that one's been
is-
hit multiple times over the years.
I'm sorry?
That one has been hit multiple times.
Yeah, probably, that's the piece that's in the worst shape. And to my thinking, to do something on at least that piece while we're paving up there, to me makes a lot of sense.
True, maybe that wants to be done first before the paving.
Well, I mean, just looking at the two, if we wanted to break it in half, Sodom and Union Wharf add up to 743 feet, and the Ledge Hill Road one is 687. So they're pretty
Yeah.
comparable sizes.
Yep.
So maybe it's the two questions. One, can we break it in half and get the same rate? And two, what's the rate on cable for certain sections? And we're really just looking for a gross number. If we're gonna do something and you wanna do it in a separate warrant article, the planning part of it can happen over time, but we need to get something together so we can.
We want to make, yeah, if we're going to include an article in the warrant, we want to make sure that it's sufficient
Yeah,
to get what we want to do. And yet, it's in the ballpark of what it's going to cost to get it done.
yeah.
Okay. I can certainly call him again today.
I have some concerns. First of all, I think that the guardrails are long overdue. I'd have no problem making a warrant article and let people decide what they spend the money. But over half the page has, read the small print. First of all, this quote is only good through January.
That's typical, that's just a
Yep.
standard format.
Yeah, it's a starting point.
Okay. Doesn't include refilling holes and removing the old guardrails. For example, it doesn't include traffic control, doesn't include, are there any underground utilities, rock, ledge, retaining walls? None of that's been addressed. We're going back again, and I sound like a broken record and I apologize, is we put electric doors on and then there's all of these additional charges we don't plan on. And, I will say that this company comes highly recommended, so.
And again, that just reflects that it's not the total cost of doing the project, that's their work. So whatever additional has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna need material, and I don't see them doing this work without active participation by the road agents crew. Whether it's traffic control or providing material for backfill or whatever it might be. But I think you'd be hard pressed to get an estimated cost with 100% of the product covered.
I don't think you're gonna get a quote that includes
A ledge clause.
anything for ledge or whatever, because you don't know that until you get into it. And as it relates to, yeah.
I don't know that there are any underground, well, who knows, for residential use, there might be some. But those are pretty easily,
Well, remember what you found on Sodom Road?
So there is telephone wire running in sections under Sodom Road, underground telephone.
right?
There is, it's not everywhere, but we've got it, I think, even on County Road, going up the side of that, we found that with a lawnmower, with a mower. Loose end, wrapped it all up. It was quite a few years ago, we know where it is now.
So is it an active telephone line?
It is. Yep.
And it's installed by the Union Telephone Company or whoever it is up there?
Yeah, it used to be Kentucky, so I'm not sure, I think it may have changed
It
hands.
seems like an
but-
odd thing to do here.
That's what they did, is they put it down when those roads were not paved.
Yeah.
Remember the one down Sodom Road? Instead of making it short,
Yeah, it changes back and forth sides.
That's not in conduit, it's just laying in there?
It's definitely not in conduit.
So it's certainly not.
No,
To
well,
code.
it was buried, but it wasn't buried, right?
It's buried and we've had it marked several times. And one time we had a problem with the culvert that, clogged on the end. Well, we had it marked and we showed it going across here. And so like, well, we can dig in front of the culvert, clean that out. No, couldn't. The wire was in it. They decided to go around that culvert end, which they corrected after the fact, and they didn't charge us or anything. They actually fixed it quite fast. I was amazed, you know.
Who's they?
The phone company came.
Oh.
They had it fixed in like 2 hours. I was kind of
Well, if
surprised.
we hire DigSafe, they'll mark whatever's in there.
Correct, and they did, but they didn't go out around the culvert. They did a dotted line across the top of the culvert, this way. But the wire didn't go under the culvert like they thought it did. It did a little loop around and went back up. So it wasn't our fault.
Right. Well, and that's why you get DigSafe, because if DigSafe marks it and it isn't where it's marked, you got no
Exactly.
responsibility. That's on somebody else.
And it was. It didn't cost us anything, and it really didn't set us back.
I don't know whose idea it was to lay phone cable in the ground. It just seems odd.
Well, Sodom Road, he found a lot of things that were odd. For example, what were they, 200 stumps?
Well, I don't remember the number, but I just remember
I mean, again,
stumps
talking
and
about,
logs, yeah.
and remember the culvert up by the cemetery? It's 2 different types of culvert, right?
Three
Yep.
different types of.
And it's, and like you told me, it was amazing that the trucks hadn't caved it in years ago.
All right. I think you know what we need.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, so I will ask him about all these questions that we have.
Yeah.
Don't know if there's any other questions you guys have?
I have some. Does the truck need welding?
It is. I have not heard back from the insurance company yet. I'm gonna try to call them today, but I think we need a new wing tower for sure. Which is the main structure where the wing hangs in the front.
And
And that's bolted on,
And that's paid by insurance, correct?
yes.
And there's a $1,000 deductible, but that comes out of the legal budget, correct?
Well, we have.
Well, you guys have it, yeah.
Okay. I noticed that your budget came back in a few pennies under, the calendar year. Any big bills out there? Or?
So there is. I have the tree bill coming. I actually have it. Received it last night, email. I think that was like $5,600 for the tree work that has been done.
That still puts you under.
And then we have the bills for cutting edges, where all the trucks are pretty much due. We're starting to leave a gap underneath. That's how you can tell your cutting edges are wearing out when you leave snow in the middle of the road, because they arch. They wear out on an arch shape. So we have cutting edges coming for all the trucks. That is around 11,000. And then I did order a headset, a new headset here for the York Rake. And the reason being is that York Rake has always had an old headgear style of plow saddle on it from the old days. And I've always had to switch one of mine, take it off my plow and put it on the string and take it off. And then what happens is you get that time of year in the fall, or it could even be the spring, where we're changing it back and forth in the same day, trying to York Rake or plow.
Is there any way that that bill could be charged to next year?
Yep, yep.
I think you've worked very hard to stay within your budgets, and I want to thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I can certainly do that.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have to pick it up until next year. I mean, it is next year. We haven't picked it up, but yeah.
Thank you.
So that's $16,600 or 16,000, yeah, $600. So you should still be in the, it should
Yep.
still be in the budget.
It's been an interesting year, so thank you.
Year to date. And are we buying anything? Are we buying a plow truck or anything this year from our road agent? And we've talked about the 6-wheeler forever.
Yeah. I think we were looking at 2022 on replacing the 10-liter.
That was what we came up with, I think, was, it'll be 7 years old on 2022, so we'll have to budget for it
That's on
next
the
year.
10-wheeler, right?
Excuse me?
That's on the 10-wheel dump?
Yes.
We're not gonna do anything about the 6-wheeler?
6-wheeler was taken off the road a number of years ago.
Why do I see 2 plow trucks out there?
I have,
They're his.
Oh, okay.
I bought a 10-wheeler that's almost identical to the town 10-wheeler.
Okay, all right. Never mind.
Yeah.
They are keeping them clean, but somebody ran off the road. Too bad they didn't run off the road with your truck rather than our truck.
Correct.
Just saying.
You know, and it was funny because it looked like nothing happened. It just slid off the road at a slow rate. And he plowed the rest of the day, until the end of the day. And then that's when one of the welds up on that front arm broke loose. It cracked on a weld. And once that broke loose, it twisted it right off and completely off the truck and under.
Nice. So is that why the tow bill was so much?
No, the tow bill was just to pull it out. It wasn't towed. I mean,
It was just to get a.
They brought the big one, right?
yeah, they brought the big,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I think that's actually like a minimum set price is like $600. That's,
6.25.
yeah, I think that's actually a minimum price for bringing that big truck out.
And it's not like a typical, pulling a typical truck out because you have two plows on it.
And it was full of sand at the time too,
Yeah.
so it was super heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I toyed with the idea of just pulling it out with the other 10-wheeler, but it was just too dangerous. The snow, the visibility.
And the other thing is,
I don't know.
something breaks or something snaps, it's his insurance that pays for it.
Yeah, and then if we had a problem, then we'd have 2 trucks down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I just couldn't
Well,
take a chance.
And while the other truck could yank it out, you don't have a winch on it, right?
No, but
I mean, so all you're doing is using a chain and,
Correct.
Yep.
so you don't have the same level of control that somebody's running a winch does.
Not at all.
And when you have a crew of guys down there scrambling around, they're not doing the roads.
Correct, and at the same time, the biggest reason was I just felt it was just too dangerous.
Quite frankly, use good judgment, thank
And
you.
how are we making out with William Road as an additional piece?
Well, I mean, it seems like it's working.
I mean, should we be looking at adjustments in our winter budget because of it, or? Is it
Well, I just think that it's a bigger than just plowing. You know, it's
Right.
the plowing and then the extra sand, and then it's mowing, you know, in the summer, and then it's, you know, adding gravel every year and road grading it twice a year.
And there's no place for the,
Ditching.
and there's no place for the water to go during the warm spell. There were ruts on both sides when I went up there. You
So
know,
it's-
it's not the typical,
No, it's by far the
Idea.
hardest road we have. It's a hard road, it's gonna require more money. I don't know how we wanna come up with a figure for all the work. It's not just plowing, it's the mowing and the grading and ditching, tree work. Future project that needs to be done as far as straight.
Well, when we accepted that road this year, one of the provisions was that it was subject to a betterment assessment for the abutters. And my understanding is in order to do that, we have to identify an amount of money and put it on the warrant this year to move it forward. So I know that 2 of the abutters contributed some money, and you spent that doing work on the road, right?
Yes, we
Already.
did, and it does look a lot better now.
Yeah,
It's
so-
in much better shape.
If we're gonna go forward with an assessment for the abutters to do additional work, we need to come up with how much it's gonna cost to do it, what the fair approach is to doing it.
Right, and that's just betterment. I mean,
So we have 2 things operating. One is you got bringing it up to a level that can be
right.
maintained summer and winter on a regular, reasonable basis. And the other piece, what you were talking about, is it's another 3/4 mile, whatever it is, of unpaved town road, which, as any road has costs associated with it.
Is it 3/4 of a mile?
Maybe it's half a mile.
I think it's a half a mile.
So your real number is probably somewhere around $7,400 a year. And you're running about $14,800 a mile. Total budget, all in. So if you add another half a mile, you gotta add another $7,800 worth of. And it may not be $7,800 every year.
Right.
Some years it might be 20,000, other years it might be 2,000. But that's, I mean, that's just the rate of travel on the roads. But if we're gonna upgrade or improve or better the road, we need to know that figure so that we can plug it into a betterment assessment.
Right.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that would need to be done next is, take care of the drainage.
Mhm.
That's the next step, is, we've done some of it, but we couldn't bite off that whole project.
Have you spoken to the landowners on the hill about rain gardens?
I have not.
On the left side going in, Lloyd, is that who you're talking about?
Yes.
Rain gardens would be on the left side.
No, I know, but those are the landowners over there.
Yes.
Okay.
Rain gardens, for example, around Mirror Lake have worked, haven't they?
The problem with not getting it all done in one season, we can't do betterment after betterment after
Right.
betterment.
If we're gonna do a betterment assessment,
We need
it's
to
a
do it
one
all.
shot, so we gotta, however much it's gonna be, that's where it is. And from there forward, then it's just normal maintenance, which might include, some extra normal stuff here and there, so.
Yeah, we gotta like what we do on other roads.
Right.
So I guess the first thought is the drainage should be addressed. And then the second thought would be the front entranceway. I don't know if that's something that we are willing to tackle.
And what would that,
Well, I know we talked about when we were out there. Now, of course, that's a project that involves the state as well, right?
I think it would just be a permit. I
Yeah.
don't know.
what's
how
the
that-
problem with the entranceway?
Well,
It's not a safe entrance.
It-
There's a hill and there's visibility issues.
yeah, just the way it drops down into the road.
Yeah. And you basically have to have your nose almost right out into 171 to see what's coming.
And that's provided you can stop. If it was ice, it's very dangerous.
Okay, how do you solve that? You're knocking that all out of there, or is that? I'm not-
Well, you widen the corners up, right? I mean, you cut back so the visibility is better and maybe cut the hill down a little bit.
Yeah, I think we need to do some test holes just to see what we're up against.
Yeah.
We did find ledge further up the hill.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's there too, but there's probably, my thought is that there might be ledge there because they would have probably done it correctly the first time if it was easy.
I like your suggestion. Wouldn't it be nice if we could reuse some of the material to reclaim the road that's washed out, that's the Class 6? But the town can't spend money on a Class 6 road, so,
With some caveats.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, we can,
So-
but some of that material could go into filling as opposed to knocking down. You could level a lot of that
Yes.
right out.
I know that you've looked at,
drainage as well.
you've looked at the bridge, and when I discussed it with you, it may need eventually some stonework there. But weren't you and I kind of talking about leave the bridge there?
It's nice that it's the old stone style culvert, but I can clearly see on one side it's coming down. It's, it needs-
Well, knowing that we've got to get this thing done in a year, or do a betterment in a year, do we want to invite local general contractors out, get some bids, describe the project? I know you like to do everything, but maybe this is a situation where you can't be doing the prep for the paving and all the rest of the stuff that you're doing and do that. So,
Yeah, I can certainly do that.
Yeah,
at least get a number that we can work with.
That makes sense,
yeah.
yes.
So,
But the first step is we have to identify what specific work we want to do.
Right,
uh,
right.
And that, it's got to come out of your head.
Well, I think it's got to be agreed upon by everybody here. We all going to come up with the,
Right.
Right.
what needs to be done.
A list of tasks, so if you can come up with a list of things that should be done to that road, and we can all review it.
Yep.
And if there's some of it that we think was maybe a little excessive as far as the taxpayer is concerned, or some of it which we want to add to them, I think
Okay.
That would be great.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's, I mean, I can think of 3 or 4 general contractors off the top of my head that would gladly bid on it.
Right. Next subject you have?
I think I'm all set.
Okay.
I'm good.
Are we having budget this week, Kathy?
Tomorrow night.
You have a
Alright.
budget committee tomorrow.
And we've done the highway budget already?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you don't have to come in for that.
Yeah, we finished that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else for Jim?
Nope.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks, Jim.
Keep on plowing.
So do you guys not have a copy of the proposals for the heating system yet?
No.
We haven't seen it.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave these with Kathy to make copies.
Yeah, and don't forget to get a hold of the insulation guys, so we can, if we're gonna do it, we might as well do the whole
Oh, I agree.
Yep.
thing.
You can email me the installation ones if you want, or come in and I'll make copies.
Okay.
Yeah, and both of those insulation companies, they do it for us, and they can do it.
Yep.
Another appointment
And I have
at 10 o'clock.
updates too. I can make a copy.
In the signature file, there's nothing?
Do my notes.
Good.
Good.
That's what we like.
In action items, we need to vote to approve Patrick Runnels and Matthew Four for the Tufton Borough Fire Department roster. I have a copy of their application for employment. Have you people read it? You want to see them?
She spoke with you about it, but you never
Yep.
decided whether you were going to.
Yep. Yeah, we looked at those before.
You want this back?
Be safe.
Thank you, too.
Thanks, Jim.
David, it was 2,000. Yeah, I'm gonna make.
You know, we're dating ourselves.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the hiring for the fire rescue department of Matthew Fuller and Patrick Runnels.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Under correspondence, we have zoning hearing notice. McWhorter on an appeal for Kent Belknap. Cybersecurity breach notification from Divine Millimet. All civic CMS clients, annual review and update for 2021. Certificate of completion for Chief Shigori, real world de-escalation.
Nice.
There also was a certificate of a thank you from the outfit that they did the shaving.
For cancer,
Yeah. When the police shaved.
there is something here.
Yeah.
No Shave, Home Base recognizes and thanks the Tufton Borough Police Department. Funds for Home Base, a Red Sox Foundation, Mass General Hospital program for the annual Home Base No Shave campaign. Together, that campaign raised $1 million since 2015.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. It was attached to the other one. Okay. I skipped over, no, we did action items. Any other correspondence? Selectmen updates.
As I mentioned earlier, I've got a meeting at 11:15 on the Hurlburt Trust. If I get out of here in time, I'm gonna stop at the town office and ask Jackie if she has her request for the Historical Society.
She's not in here.
She's not here?
She's not in on Monday.
Okay. Posted online, and I think if you go to the New Hampshire Electric Cooperative, there's a YouTube of the installation and hookup and grand opening of the broadband installation up in Colebrook, Lancaster, that northwestern part of the state. And I guess from what I've heard, they've gotten additional federal money, so they're going to continue their expansion on the broadband. Our budget tomorrow night, I think we'll be finished tomorrow night. They're going to ask me about warrant articles. So, are you going to be there to answer that, or shall I answer it? Because it doesn't appear as if we've got any warrant articles finalized. We spent $940,000 last year in warrant articles. If you do, where were we on paving, 350?
Yep.
So figure 950, make it easy for me.
Well,
That's $600,000.
We're gonna start work on the warrant next week, right?
Yep.
We got the SCBA that we're gonna do.
Correct.
Is there any money left owed on that, or is that all?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, I'll find that out before tomorrow night. And
The big one is the fire department, you mean the police department warrant articles.
right. And hopefully Dan will help us out with that this morning,
Right.
because we need voters enough to sustain that. But if we don't even, I mean, still putting $200,000 or $300,000 away is not a bad
Right.
idea for that.
Correct.
So I guess my thought is, the answer for them is we don't have the warrant for it at this point.
Right.
So, I mean, I suppose you could talk about things we're looking at, but,
It would just be speculation.
yeah.
Right, I mean, I think my position's gonna have to be, or we'll try to be, that we're gonna be somewhere in the same vicinity that we were last year.
Sure.
And that should mollify the
Yeah.
anti-taxers
Sure.
and the anti-growthers.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
The first thing is, what's the total of the operating budget?
Well, I think the operating budget, we can print now. Well, we won't be able to for next month's meeting. And my track of it is that we're not growing that budget that dramatically. I don't know that it's gonna go up more than 1 or 2%.
My sense is it was somewhere in the area of what the inflation rate was. But
Yeah.
that's just a guesstimate on my part.
So that being the case, if we can keep the warrant somewhere in the same vicinity, I think we're in
Correct.
decent shape.
Correct.
I think
You
that's-
always speak well.
Yeah, baffle them with bullshit. Yeah. I think I saw Dan drive in, there was a Prius.
I had a question under other business, selectmen's update. Would it be appropriate to ask the department heads and the committee chairman just to give us a review of what they charge for fees and whatever?
What did you look for?
The different department heads and the different committee chairmen, what they charge for fees. For example, should we go up on brush or should we go up on construction, something like that? But, yeah, is it appropriate for the board to ask each department head for, well, it's just been a couple of years since we reviewed that.
I guess my suggestion is that we have that conversation with the individual involved rather than just as a broad brush to everybody.
So
So you're talking about transfer station charges, that would be a good thing to discuss with Clay, right?
Right. I mean, I'm not certain well, at some point in time, we have to go through the revenue with budget. Are you suggesting that we're gonna change the revenue figures?
Right. I'll go back to your comment. I'd just be interested to know whether our right to know fees are the same for every board and every department.
Well, they don't, the fees we set, right to know production of documents is set by us, not by departments.
Right.
Okay.
So
So,
everything on the right to know comes through
right, comes through,
the main office.
And what about reports and stuff like that?
reports like what?
Fire department reports, police department reports,
Oh, I don't know, but we'd have to ask, I think, Bill's right, we need to ask each department, because I think on the police department, some of that stuff's statutory. I mean, you get what you get, you don't get to mark it up.
But I do think it makes sense for us to understand what's going on.
I personally have no agenda here, or am I looking for any issues?
Understand
It's just
what's
public
going
information.
on.
Right?
Okay.
It's always the goal.
Yeah.
Sure. Are we ready to talk to our new guests?
Yeah, look at
Happy New Year, you all.
Happy New Year.
And who'd like to begin?
Dan, we're throwing our hands in the air.
I know, what do you do?
What are we gonna do?
Well, I'm happy to weigh in.
Go ahead.
And thank you for sending along the information you did from the Municipal Association with respect to alternatives. So the conversation is, how do we approach town meeting this year? And the legislature has provided us with an alternative to the normal procedure, which is drive-through voting under HB 1129. And it's a pretty involved procedure that involves 2 virtual meetings conducted by this board with your participation, and then a separate ballot that gets presented to voters on election day, at which they vote on the warrant, separate from the regular election ballot. And the other alternative is,
This way.
yeah,
If we could move forward a little bit, because it's easier to do.
Hard to
yeah,
hear.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah, come on up, come on up.
Oh, thank you.
And then the other alternative, as I understand it, is that we can plan to hold our traditional town meeting, gathering of all folks, and do it on a delayed basis based upon the pandemic. So that the procedure we follow would be the same as always, other than the moderator would declare that it needed to be delayed, and we would set a date in the future at which to have that gathering.
We are only talking here about the business portion of the town meeting.
We're not talking about the election,
We're not talking about the election, the
Right.
first part of the town meeting.
Right.
Right.
But,
Do we still have to have the virtual things?
If we do
No.
regular town meeting, we just do it the way we always done it.
That's
So,
clear.
I guess my concern with respect to going to this virtual thing is, when I look at the demographics of our community,
Yeah.
I think that would be a very heavy lift to get people engaged and participating. I mean, essentially, we're talking about a Zoom-type meeting twice,
Right.
where we go through the warrant and take input remotely, and I suspect we have a segment, a not insignificant segment of our local population that isn't engaged with that
Right.
approach.
Well, we know from the surveys done by the Carroll County broadband and by the telephone people and the cable people that not everybody in town has access.
Right.
No, you know, so
There are other issues. I don't think 1129 or the virtual approach is even worth considering at this point. One of the big problems with it is that there's no opportunity for the townspeople to amend or revise the articles after the discussion. It's up to the board if they want to change any of the articles or amend any of the articles. But the people don't get a chance to do that. The board gets a chance to do that. And just the whole thing
And I don't know that-
unworkable and will disadvantage an awful lot of people.
I'm not confident that you could get, that you could quantify the number of people that were involved either. So one of the discussions that we've had is if we were to bring a police department up and do it virtually, there's no way in the world we're gonna know whether there's 25 people or 250 people
Right.
or 2,500 people. So are you getting a representational vote from your town to do a major project? And I don't think you are. So,
Well, the vote portion of it, you know, because it's on the ballot, but in terms of the conversation and understanding and opportunity to participate in the process, that's severely impacted. So it sounds like at least two of us are in agreement that the virtual approach is not a good way for the town of Tuftonboro to go.
I would agree with
I would
that.
agree with that.
all right.
That makes three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll agree.
We
Yeah, we got four.
really have to consider, I think, and I don't know that we have to make that decision today, but we have two issues. One is the election, one is the business portion of the meeting. The election, were we able to use the school as we did for the general election in November? I think we could handle that very much in the same manner and that wouldn't be a problem. There is a question as to whether or not the school will be made available to us on that Tuesday in March. There are only 3 towns, as I recall, within the Governor Wentworth district that use the school on election day. And so whether or not the district is interested in closing the schools on election day for all 6 towns in order to accommodate 3, I can't answer that. You said you had some conversation with Jack.
I had a conversation with Jack relative to that, and he told me that he thought the school was not scheduled in session on election day already, and he was gonna check on it and let me know. I haven't heard back from him. But,
So when I had requested it from the school, they told me school.
it wasn't, so.
But that was, you know,
Right.
2 months ago.
Right.
or
Was or wasn't?
It was going to be in session that day. I know that the schools that do have elections regularly they do close on election day, but not all schools close on election day, so.
I thought that the whole district, if you're using, if any of the schools are doing it, then the whole district is closed for the day. Anyway,
I think there's something in the statute almost about that if one, I know, if one of the schools in the district chooses to postpone their meeting, then all of the towns in the district are supposed to as well. It's in there somewhere.
Okay, so I think that's different than what we're talking about.
It is.
Right.
But at any rate, so I need to chase Jack down, or again, if one of you guys sees him, ask him.
Yeah.
And so if it is not on the calendar at this point as a day that they're not in session, then The next question is, would the board act to make it a virtual day or a non-school day or
Right.
whatever? That would simplify voting for this town.
Mhm.
Or a snow day.
Mhm. Um,
So that's the first question. The second question is, okay, let's say we postpone to when?
The way I read the statute, including the clarification that they gave us last March, we can postpone the business portion of the meeting pretty much to any date, a date, time, and certain place and certain, but anywhere in the future. For example, we could move it to May if we chose to.
Mhm.
That's the business portion of the meeting, which I think probably will, maybe a good idea.
mhm.
At least it leaves us the possibility of possibly having a meeting outside, weather permitting. Postponing the meeting to some point makes sense from being able to conduct the meeting according to the protocols. You people can better answer what the impact is on postponing the vote on the budget, postponing all of the other things that we decide at town meeting.
Right, so, I guess the question is, can you today say, we want to postpone it? And so that the earlier we get that information out there, for
Right.
all of us, the better.
I agree, and I would point out the Tufton Road Times goes to press next week.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
right, so, and then that was my thought, is to, if we can act now and choose a future date for
Yeah,
town
okay.
meeting, then that would be good and be moving toward that date. And, you mentioned May, and it seems reasonable to me. I presume if we got close to that date and we still had a raging issue going on, that there will be opportunity to further postpone it beyond that.
There is, yes.
So,
Well, basically, it says that we can change the date of the business session if that change is made before the warrant is posted and the new date is stated in the posted warrant for the town election. So that is supposed to be, the deadline for that is February 2nd.
Yeah.
right,
So we would have to,
but there's nothing that would prevent us from now
Oh, we could say
announcing that
yeah. Oh, I think
that
especially
we
with
want
the
to
times
do
going.
it on, for instance, the second Wednesday in May.
Mhm.
Uh,
I would like to postpone that decision 1 week.
Can you
and
still
come
do
back
it in?
next Monday if you're in session, I assume you are.
Yeah,
Come back next Monday and make that decision at that time. That will give me a chance to check with, number one, I think we should run this by Rick Sager.
Yeah.
Number two, I'd like to check with Randy Walker as to what his plans are for the school deliberative session. And I'd like to get a little more input from our moderator, Storm, and the New Hampshire Municipal Association about all these things. What worries me, and I don't think this is going to happen, the state, the legislature could change all the rules right there. If they change the interpretation of what constitutes an unsafe voting place, or if the executive order, which by the way is going to expire on January 15th, mandating masks and so forth. There just are some variables here, and I'd feel better if we could touch base with those other entities before we pick the final.
Well, I don't know that anything can change after February 2nd, because we have to put, every town in the state has to post their warrant.
Mhm.
So if we're gonna
Correct.
do something different, it's gonna be posted in the warrant, the legislature can do whatever they want after that, that's not gonna make
You're
it.
right, yes.
But are you still gonna, you won't be able to get it in the Tuftonboro Times if you
But
postpone for a week?
I can get it, I know the editor pretty well, I'm pretty sure I can get it in the top.
Because they're saying January 8th is the deadline, so.
Yeah,
Well, January 8th is the deadline for articles,
Oh,
and then we'll spend the next week putting the paper together. It goes to the printer on January the 15th, and then out for distribution the following week.
so my other point would be, I think if we're gonna do this, let's consider not doing it in the middle of the week. And let's make a
Wow.
real change and have it on a Saturday. Just as a suggestion, I've always had a problem with the fact that we're not farmers anymore, and we have all of our meetings on Tuesdays, or all of our elections on Tuesdays. I mean, most of us don't go to church, I know some of you do, but I don't. So having the meeting on a weekend, I think would bring out more folks, perhaps.
I would support that, especially under these circumstances.
Mhm. So do it like the Saturday.
Are there buildings in town or buildings out of town where the business portion of the town meeting could be held, in your opinion?
Well, I think we do it in May, we could probably get,
we do on Davis Field in May if we
yeah,
were
we
to.
could get Spiderweb's tent for a day, I mean, or, I think, I don't know if Billy still has his tent, but there's,
I was thinking, for example, Tadaro Center or one of the camps that have larger buildings. The other thing is, would the school allow us to use the art center?
I'll look down on Wolfboro.
Yes. I'm thinking outside the box.
Right.
Can you use the school on a Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's one of the reasons I want to talk to Randy, to see what he's going to do with the deliberative section. The Arts Center occurred to me also,
Yeah.
because it may be large enough to accommodate, usually we have a business portion, normally some 300 odd people. And if you can space 300 people 6 feet apart, then maybe the Arts Center would be a possibility.
Good point.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah,
it's-
I like that
and
idea.
especially, spring gives you so many more alternatives
Right.
that aren't there in March.
But I think it makes sense to look at Saturday morning.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we've had some sessions on Saturday in the past
Mhm.
with sort of similar results to what we get in normal, but, you know, if we're gonna be doing it at a different time of year, Saturday morning makes perfect sense.
Oh, especially if we were led into doing something outside, it would be better to do it in the daylight than it would
Right.
be after dark.
Exactly.
I guess my only concern in May would be that you're really gonna have to monitor who's there. Because you're gonna get more of the,
Yeah, there's gonna be more people out.
yeah, the transients that
Mhm.
aren't real voters, but they pay taxes, so they think they have.
Taxpayers versus residents.
Right.
Well,
They think they have rights.
so,
But they have to check.
so the requirement is they have to be on the list to participate.
Mhm.
So that's no different than,
That's under the
In March.
March now.
right.
Mhm.
And might we get a different mix of people in May than we do in March? We might.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Uh,
And during the day,
Yep,
rather than in
Right.
the evening too. Mhm.
yeah, it'll be fun.
so, yeah, I think making a decision next Monday makes perfect sense. Yeah.
We'll see you Monday.
I will be back.
Well, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
And
Is there a
we'll-
particular time?
Can
Is there a particular time you would like?
you give me a 10 o'clock hour next Monday?
You want to stick with
I
10?
like 10
Okay.
o'clock.
You want 10 o'clock?
You call, we haul.
I have a question too. Can we also at that time try to figure out about if the school is available? I mean, before then, we can, you know,
For-
talk to
for
them,
voting,
just so we
yes.
can make a
Right.
decision. 'Cause,
Right.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah,
You
That's
know,
important. We haven't talked much as if the school is not available,
yeah,
where we would hold the election. Postponing the election is a lot more complicated.
Right.
It really should be weather related.
right.
So we're much more constrained
right.
in terms of the election.
Well, two things that I remember that we've discussed. One is that using the equipment bay at Central Fire Station. And the other one is, and I think you brought this up, voting here with an altered procedure so that we, just move people through and out. And
Yeah, whether they go out,
Yep,
come in.
come in
out
this
that
way, go out that way. And the real challenge there is that particularly if the weather's inclement, we're gonna have people standing outside and, what kind of provision would we have to provide some protection to them? But,
And I would still have my election workers in there 12, 14 hours, all packed in together if we did it here.
Right.
But if you had the whole room,
This room?
yeah, without all the booths and all that shit, all you need is one booth or two booths. I mean, you're not gonna have a whole raft of voters in here at once. It's gonna have to be a in and out.
We need relief from the statute that requires a minimum number of voting booths.
Yeah, there isn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're now over 2,000 registered voters, so we have to have a minimum of, well, a little less for non-presidential, but we'd still have to have at least 18 booths available here.
Wow. Well, so
Yeah.
So, something else for us to chase this week is to nail
Right.
down whether we can.
For the election part of the town meeting, people can vote by absentee ballot, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
But that doesn't alter what the moderator has to do.
But our
for the
requirements are still
Right.
the same.
Just a thought.
Yeah. We can just encourage everyone to vote absentee.
Well, okay, then we all set with
so
these
much
folks.
fraud involved with that.
Thank you.
There is not.
safe, y'all.
I take this job very seriously. We wouldn't let that happen.
Is there any other business to come before the board and from the public?
I like that. I like that, the whole cadence of that.
Yep,
Can you say that one more time?
yeah, really.
There's one thing I think we have to go into non-public for.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Travel safe.
See you later.
See you, Joe.
I don't
Yeah,
know what it
you
is,
do.
so I'll have to listen.
Is it reputation?
Excuse me, go ahead, sir.
Well, I just had a question in reference to absentee ballots. The election that's coming up is for whom, or who are we voting for?
You're voting for
Town
one
office.
selection,
Budget
Oh.
committee?
yeah, the budget, a couple of budget committee people.
So all that can be handled on an absentee ballot, is that correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and any changes to the
zoning.
zoning?
Okay,
It's a local election ballot, that's it.
all right, thank you.
Yep. So is it reputation, is that what we're doing?
Yes, it's
Okay.
the,
So I'll move, we go into non-public session per RSA 91A3, Karen, is it A? Whatever it is, for reputation.
I'll second.
Wood, yes?
Marcus, and yes.
I'll be yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.